Hello, and welcome to the Engineer Your Success, Leadership, and Life Harmony Like a Mother show. I'm your host, Kenya Romanovska, award-winning investigative journalist turned maternity and working motherhood strategist. And today I'm here to talk about the O word and how I banish it. So I want to start with some storytelling and context setting as we speak. My house is orderly. My laundry is done. I have my nails done, my hair done. I've taken care of myself. My 5-month-old breastfed baby is on a walk with somebody I really trust and love. I've put in recently some 50-hour work weeks. I've had a surge in business and business activity. I've had some date time with my husband. My kids are in bed by 7:30. They're enrolled in many activities. I manage staff. Life is rich, life is full. I have 2 vacations already planned and paid off. What else? I mean, life is good. Life is good, right? And I have 3 kids. So I have a 5-month-old baby and I have 2 children at school. And life feels organized. Life feels organized. Life feels really good. It wasn't always this way, but now it is. And one of the things I notice speaking with many moms who have careers is when you ask how things are, how they're doing, is there's a lot of overwhelm. There's a lot of feeling like there's not enough time in a day. There's feelings of struggling with work-life balance and work-life integration. And I'm going to tell you that if this is happening year after year, all the time, then it is overwhelm is a choice. That's right. It's a choice. Am I experiencing some discomfort now? Of course, because I am adjusting to life with a 3rd child. It's shifted the dynamic in our household. We have various support systems set up, but this is an ever-changing little human who needs me to get to know her, and I need her to know me, right? And we don't always sleep full nights. I wake up sometimes once, sometimes twice, right? Maybe 3 times, but we worked with a sleep consultant. So yes, I experience discomfort because I push myself to grow in business. But when it comes to overwhelm, is that the identity you want to embrace? Do you want to wake up day after day feeling overwhelmed, right? I don't. I want to feel calm. I want to feel energized. I want to feel grounded, connected, peaceful, organized. So it starts with an identity. So I'm talking today about how I banish overwhelm. And it starts with my identity and what I speak into existence. So the more I talk about overwhelm, the more I notice it, the more I create in my life. But that's not what I want to create in my life. So I am crafting an identity and a schedule and an existence where it doesn't feel that way. And it starts with clarity. It starts with clarity. So today I'm going to skip over the 25-year vision and the values and the roadmap because I've covered that in many podcasts. You can scroll. I also cover that in workshops. So once that's out of the way, in a way, once you've designed the type of life you want, because first it starts with clarity, and that's work I started years ago, deciding who I want to be as a parent, who I want to be as a professional, the type of impact I want to make, what kind of relationship do I want to have with time. These are all stories we tell ourselves that underpin all of our decisions. We used to have moments in our life where mornings felt rushed and where our kids were grumpy, but it started with us. We started shifting the story. We started telling a different story, and the kids are coming along for the ride. Now we will have dance parties in the morning, right? We will, after a good night's sleep, our kids feel like they are blessings and they behave like blessings 70% of the time, which is a pretty good percentage, right? So it started with stories. And if you don't want overwhelm, you have to pick a narrative that's the opposite, and then you have to start designing your calendar around it. It's as simple as that. I think we like to try to make it so much more complicated, but ultimately it starts with defining what you really, 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 really want. How do you want to feel? What do you want your schedule to look like? And then, are you willing to be decisive? Are you able to put the support systems in place? Are you willing to do the math on your day? Are you willing to see that your life can be made up of designed seasons? So I want to get really practical and concrete here. If you missed our workshop, let me know, send me a DM with the word workshop on Facebook, for example, or LinkedIn, and I'll let you know where our next one is. But I went into great detail on how I design my calendar and the way that I've started banishing overwhelm and getting better and better at it, because yes, it creeps up, those echoes creep up. And with every cycle and evolution, I work on banishing it more and more and more and more. And I find that now it's a season of life where I feel discomfort because of growth, but I'm not constantly running like a chicken with my head cut off and saying I'm busy all the time and I'm so overwhelmed and all of that. And I'm not just my to-do list, right? I'm a human being as well. So it actually started with accepting that I am a woman and accepting my cyclicality and designing seasons into my life. So as we're recording this podcast, I have a pretty full, rich season. It's one of my productive seasons, and I designed it this way, and there's an intensity to it. And I think that's why many of us love working and impacting results and getting a paycheck, because there's this drive, right? There's this zest. We love that feeling of productivity. We love feeling energized by what we do. We love using our brains. We love doing good things. So I've designed such a season, and I have 3 seasons like that in my year of productivity. There's the fall, and then there's the winter and the spring, but my midwinter and my summer calendars have a different vibe to them, where my calendar rules look differently. So now I have a season of pushing. And do I have like those little pangs when my daughter spends time with caregivers? I do. Of course I do. I mean, she's my love, she's my daughter. But I also know why I'm doing what I'm doing, the kind of impact I want to make in the world professionally, what I want to model for her and what I want to show for her. And the best thing is that I give myself permission to constantly reinvent myself. So right now, there's this design in my calendar that has these seasons of productivity where I use more of these masculine, logical, get things done tools. But then there are seasons where I like to pull back and go more into my feminine energy and commit to less stuff and have more flow and have more creativity. So I know that in 2 months, so we're recording this in May, and in 2 months, May, June, and then mid-July to mid-August is such a season for me where I don't have meetings booked on my calendar, where we are traveling to Costa Rica, where I will probably put in about 3 hours of work per day for part of the trip, because that's what feels good. I like that flow. I've discovered that about myself. One year I did a 1-month vacation, and I just found it too jarring to come back to my business and to be disconnected entirely, right? So I know that at the end of this season, of this intense season, it's a season where I give myself to take a step back and reevaluate what matters and look at my calendar again and craft the next season of my life. And I do that on a yearly basis. I do it on a seasonal basis. But it all started with the identity of accepting who I am as a woman. I am a cyclical creature. I am a fertile creature. I give life, right? I have different hormonal cycles throughout the month, and there's wisdom in that. Before, when I tried to follow the masculine model and fit into the mold of everything of productivity nonstop and always have productive quarters and productive financial quarters and pack every week with 40 hours of activity without buffer blocks, without accounting for my kids being sick or me being sick from time to time, right? It was just like a rat race. It was always running. And of course I felt overwhelmed all the time because I designed a calendar that produced overwhelm. And then I decided I wouldn't anymore, right? There's a whole year that I did that. My core desired feeling was unrushed. And that year I slowed down operations. I always talk about how it was one of my most profitable years too. I designed my business around my family. I didn't have staff in that season. But then I got bored of feeling unrushed, and I wanted more zest and adrenaline in my life, and I decided to ramp things up. So I designed a year where I decided that I would push more. I would push more. I would be more productive. I would want to make more money. I would want to make a bigger impact in my market. I would want to serve more people. And, then reality follows that. So that's why I say that overwhelm is a choice, because once you take awareness of it and you reproduce those cycles and patterns, there are things in your subconscious that are making you choose this type of pattern without taking a step back and deciding to design your life otherwise. And some people will say, but Kenya, in my industry, that's not allowed, or I can't design my calendar like yours. Okay, well, is that how you want to stay? Do you want to stay in the exact same industry at the exact same employer with the exact same pattern and wake up in 20 years and be in the exact same situation? Is there nothing better out there for you? Do you not have any freedom or agency to take a step back and actually think? And I did that with my advanced clients, my year 3 and 4 clients this year. We took a step back and asked ourselves, and whether it's 3 months or 3 years, who do you want to work with? How many hours do you want to work, right? Start with that. Start with actually thinking about what your calendar would look like if it looked the opposite of overwhelm. What is the opposite of overwhelm for you? Is it peaceful, calm, connected, unrushed? And then start thinking about all of the things that you do in your day, everything you say yes to, everything you commit to. That's my calendar process. Last year, I made a list of all the activities that I perform, whether I want to perform them, how much time I spend on them, and then how much time I want to spend on them this year. And so I have a much better idea of where my time goes, where my energy goes, and whether it's in alignment with the type of life I want to create. It's funny, when I do this exercise with my clients, people realize, oh, I cram more than 24 hours of stuff into my day. So how can you not feel overwhelmed? It is a choice. If you overcram your calendar, it is a choice. If you're not aware of the seasons in your life, it is a choice. Once you know, you can't unlearn this. This might be a hard-hitting message for some, right? And you will say, Kenya, but the system, Kenya, but my employer. I'm aware of all of that. And so what? Are you going to stay stuck in the overwhelm and putting your energy to changing the system and blaming the system? Or are you going to take ownership of your narrative as a mom with a career who's making the choices she's making? And are you going to continue designing it the way you have up until now? Because if you're listening to this podcast and you're overwhelmed, there's your previous choices that got you here. Now, you didn't know, of course you didn't know before you became a mom, how things would look like, right? And that you would feel this way, although we can probably sense it watching other moms, seeing what happens when you're a mom with a career. So of course you didn't know before, but now that you are here, now that you're listening to this podcast, do you think that the world has to dictate exactly how you live your life? Or do you feel like you could have more agency? So in my workshop, in my 5-day workshop, and we'll have another one in a couple of weeks, I talked about choosing 4 feelings about how you want to feel in your life as a mom, as a working mom, right? 2 that are energized, 2 that are calmer. And then start looking at your calendar and think, am I making choices that align with that? Where am I overcommitting? I like to take a more systemic approach to reduce the mental load and to plan a more, I like to plan a year in advance, for example, more or less how things look like, big picture, because some things you absolutely need to do, right? You have to have on your calendar. You have to feed yourself, clothe yourself. You have to transport your kids here and there, but there's so much that you can design and create. So start by embracing your identity as a woman, as a life-giving creature, as somebody who's cyclical, as somebody who can design seasons in her life. And there's always one next step. If you brush off everything and see that's impossible for me, this is not the right place for you, to be honest. Because whenever, let's say if I start working with a client, we start with 1 day per quarter where you take it back for yourself, where you can actually start reflecting on what you want. And that can be a lengthier process because of everything that's ingrained, the thought patterns, the values, the expectations for our performance, for who we are as women, for who we are as mothers. A lot of that is planted and seeded in us. And so you do need to create some of that spaciousness to reflect on what is working for you and what is not, and then making aligned decisions and choices with what you want to create in the future. So in the beginning, there could be that friction, but typically most people who come to see me don't have much planned beyond the next 90 days in their calendar. So you can start planting those seeds. All right, and the quarter after that, what do I want to do differently? Start with 1 step. Start with 1 day that you can take for yourself to reflect on your desires, how you want to feel, and then adjusting your calendar for the future quarter and saying, okay, this is what I'm removing, and that's the time I'm crafting for myself. You can always take a first step for change. You can always take a first step to eliminate that overwhelm in your life, but it starts with a choice. It starts with a decision, right? If you want to wake up in a year and meet with the same friends to talk about the same problems and complain about how you're anxious and overwhelmed and how life is not fair and how your husband is not doing enough at home and how you're carrying the mental load and how blah, 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 that's a choice. You don't have to wake up in a year in that situation, but it starts with a decision. It starts with design, right? So I'm here to help if you want to take that first step, design a roadmap, right? And break down your 4 next action items in 4 core pillars of your life. I'm here to get you help to get you that initial clarity. So you can DM me roadmap on Facebook, on Messenger, on LinkedIn, for example, right? Or through our website, prosandbabes.com. And I'm happy to help you get that initial clarity on where do I even get started? Because there's a lot that you do in your day as a mom. I know. And you may not have the system, you may not have the mindset, you might be feeling a little bit hopeless sometimes. I get it. But if you're decisive, if you like to get stuff done, if you've gotten good results in your academic life and your professional life, if you're wanting to get coached and mentored and you're open to change, then we can truly create miracles in your life, right? We can get you those raises. We can get your relationship with your partner on a different page. We can get you out of that overwhelm into a sense of peace, calm, and connection, and also into your productivity. But it starts with design. It starts with a choice, and it starts with being decisive. It starts with having an identity that is not so entrenched in the overwhelm. Okay. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you for tuning into the Engineer Your Success, Leadership, and Life Harmony Like a Mother show. Again, I'm your host, Kenya Romanovska. And if you've enjoyed this episode, or if it's triggered you, that's fine. That's absolutely lovely. That means it's going to give you something to reflect on and that it's given you a different perspective. Then you can always connect with me and let's chat. Have a great day.